Thank you, Marian. Thank you for that
No
fantastic
worries. Great.
overview. Yeah, I think, I mean, we kept quite a bit of time for questions, thinking that we need an overview, but actually the real questions on what you'd like to know about all of this would come as questions, and we would be able to discuss further. So I'm just checking whether you have any questions. So I have a few that I would like to open up with if there's none coming from you at the moment. So please feel free to post the questions on chat, and I'll have a close look at it. Shall I open up the forum with a question?
Sure, all right. Why not? Then yes, that sounds great.
Yeah. Look, we talked about reporting as from a more like a compliance perspective. Like we kind of need to do it because if you take IFRS standards, our jurisdiction has adopted it as a mandatory standard, so we are kind of going ahead with it. So reporting as from an organization's perspective, compliance is like one aspect. Now, if you kind of think of how we create value with it for the organization in terms of risk reduction or reputation or other things, competitive advantage, why would a company need to get into impact reporting, sustainability impact reporting?
Okay, that's a really good question, actually. And I think it's a really timely question because what I am seeing in the marketplace at the moment are very real questions from companies that have been reporting on their sustainability impacts who are choosing to only go with mandatory reporting, which is such a disappointment, I think. Anyway, by undertaking the overarching sustainability impact reporting, such as with a framework like the Global Reporting Initiative framework, it really does help you to manage your overarching sustainability performance, whether or not it is your economic performance, environmental or social, including human rights performance, and managing risks around those areas. So it's not just about compliance. It's not just about climate. Climate is just one small part of the entire sustainability conversation. One part of the entire sustainability impact story that we have to tell. Yeah, so a lot of this is about managing your performance and risk. It is also very, very helpful to set your goals and targets. So for those of you who have really gotten stuck into the AASB S2 in terms of, well, what are we going to have to report, you'll note that, at some stage, you will really very much need to set, well, what are your short, medium, and what are your goals and targets around greenhouse gas reduction, for example, over the short, medium, and long-term time horizons, whatever they are. Yeah. So this very much helps set your goals and targets across a range of sustainability impacts, not just climate. Yeah. Climate reporting is a separate science on its own. Yeah. Also, some of the other benefits of impact reporting are very much around attracting investment as well. So again, some of the newer standards, whether or not they are mandatory or voluntary, such as, we've got our AASB, the EFRS standards, TNFD, they are very much investor focused. Which is fantastic. Again, they're one small part of the story. If you could report on the financial impacts of your sustainability, financial effects of your sustainability impacts, that's part of your entire sustainability story, not just that small part. They're all important. And of course, there's things such as, enhancing reputation, all the marketing stuff. But I tend to really look at this much more from a strategic perspective. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And a quick comment on it. Like if you kind of think of the what you presented, Marian, with the set of countries who have currently have adopted it as a mandatory standard, IFRS, and the ones which are currently in progress in adopting it as a mandatory standard, you see quite a few of countries in the global south, as well as countries who have manufacturing bases, etc., etc. So I mean, being present with some work in the Asia Pacific, one sort of observation I see is that in some of those countries, when the current regulatory requirement or the adoption of the standards are sort of big driven by the market pressure. So if you're if you're an export-oriented economy, or you have you're manufacturing big brands with the manufacturing base you have, or you have large conglomerates who want to have a really high brand reputation, the market pressure drives you before the country's regulation drives you. So it's kind of a trend that I usually sort of see prominent in that area. So yeah, if there's
that's good. Sometimes there's not that evidence, you know. Where's the but if you are seeing that within the companies that you're working with, that's very good.
Yeah. Another question until questions come through from the other participants.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Does no one else have any questions? Otherwise, we're just having a conversation with each other. I know there are some good talkers in this audience. I know it.
Yeah, probably we'll give 30 seconds or so for others to ask questions before I come up with another one.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, Robin.
Speaking of good talkers, I've always got a question, Marian.
I know.
I was really curious. I think I totally agree with your notion on focusing on impact, and I think the mandatory reporting regime, as it's been introduced into Australia, they have made it clear that if emissions are reduced as a result of mandatory reporting, that would be a bonus, but it's not the purpose here, right? And I think that notion you're hearing from organisations where they're saying, oh, we're just going to go with the mandatory stuff now, which is really only aimed at investors, although I think investors want to know about impacts as well, right? But it is aimed at investors, and it's kind of like we're watching the finance sector have its own little a bit of a journey of discovery here about how to protect the money from climate risks or maximising opportunities. I'm just wondering, because we're also hearing about pushback on sustainability, ESG more specifically, and commentators talking about either preparing for the next leap in terms of a transformation, like John Elkington's talking about that, or sort of doubling down and holding the line. What advice would you give internally in a business where they're faced with that from their executive team? Oh, we don't need to worry about that stuff anymore. And how do you hold the line or double down within an organisation where you're getting that kind of pushback?
Yeah, look, that's a great question, and I think it's really quite difficult because as a consultant, you can recommend, but whether or not they take your advice is another matter. Yeah. So, look, in terms of positioning this in terms of resilience and risk, I've even heard that many companies in the US actually are getting away from the terminology ESG and talking about resilience rather than ESG. So what is their resilience policy rather than their ESG policy, just to not get caught up in this, in the anti-ESG sentiment. So whatever tricks you can roll out, go for it. The old baffle them with, BS kind of thing. But we know what we're talking about. So yes, so my advice is to, very much position this in terms of resilience and risk. In terms of looking at, what the benefits of current sustainability reporting has been beyond being a marketing tool, which I hate to say is still the case for some organisations. It's been peaks and troughs over the years in terms of what the focus, I believe, that I've seen in different organisations have been, and actually trying to provide that evidence. Everyone actually wants that quantitative evidence now. If it exists, that's great. If it doesn't, try and pull some stats together, because it's the numbers that are going to do the talking. That's the thing. Does that help?
Yes.
It's hard. I think it's a really hard argument.
Yeah, it is at the
There's
moment.
no
Whatever
this is going
works.
to work.
Mm.
No, it's difficult. Yeah.
There's another question coming through. I just remembered something when you talked about the resilience word. Some of the European collaborators that we kind of worked with mentioned that when the sustainability claims are not substantiated, in Europe they have an expression that it's sustainability is the next S word when they're sort of produced without substantiation. So yeah. So we have a question coming through. If I put it across to you, Marian, Jenna is asking, what kind of sustainability reporting tools are you seeing that are supporting companies to collect data for all these disclosures?
Again, I will go back. Jenna, to the GRI standards. So again, that will very much set you. Done well, so done properly, going through a really robust process, because it has to be done well from end to end, is the GRI reporting standards, and that will absolutely help you out with all of your other reporting. I think that there will be gaps in even understanding about what sustainability is if you start somewhere else. And only because a lot of the other standards are written by people who are not sustainability people. So I don't know if there might be some, that might be a really controversial thing to say. But if I read, and apologies if I do offend anyone here, if I read the AASB S2 standards, which I have done, I get a little bit of a headache, because I think that was not written by a sustainability person. It was written by legal people and financial people. And I have to, decide. I actually have to try and decipher that. Yeah. And if I have issues with that, other non-sustainability people are also going to have issues with that. So start with the GRI standards. Everything else will flow on from there, and try and streamline your reporting. That's the thing. So if you are subject to, and I know that you'll be, you are in the feed sector, so there'll be many other different reporting obligations that you have. Try and streamline your sustainability reporting with as baseline standards such as the GRI standards. So
Marian,
does that answer your question, Jenna?
Jenna has put another follow-up note. She meant most like software tools. So I think probably she's meaning more around tools for data collection, etc.
Sorry, Jenna, I went off on a tangent. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Jenny, do you want to ask the question directly from Marian? Maybe you could explain more, but that's probably what you asked.
No, that's fine. Hi, Marian. Yeah, I was just thinking about the tools. Like, I think GRI is the right standard, but I was just wondering if you're seeing any types of software tools that companies are using to be able to then collect this data.
Yeah, look, there are so many out there. There are hundreds of those tools out there at the moment, and it's quite mind-boggling. My suggestion is to go to so I can let you know offline some of the ones that I know of. I'm hesitant to recommend any, because I think it's important to get the right tool for your requirements. The GRI does also have certified software tools. So I would imagine that to become a GRI certified software provider, you would need to jump through quite a few hoops, just like you do as a certified training partner. So I can certainly send you through a link to that. Thanks, Robin.
Thank you for sharing that link, Robin. Alrighty, we have 4 minutes left. I have probably the last bit of slides to conclude, but maybe we could provide room for one more question if you have any. Yeah. Alrighty. Thank you. And I would actually get my slide deck up once again very quickly. The conclusion. Awesome. So what we had today was the 10th webinar, and this is series of webinars we are running, and a lot of them, I think I mentioned to you based on our specialty, is on transition to a circular economy, transition towards a low carbon economy and decarbonization roadmaps, etc. So we have done a few together with other partners, and today is the one we did it with Marian, focusing more on a broad and a holistic view of sustainability reporting, the landscape and frameworks. So what's upcoming? The next event we are having a focus on circular and clean economic tech startups. We are partnered with RMIT Activator for circular tech startup activation and commercialization. So we are focusing on that event, which is a physical event happening on the 27th of August at RMIT Activator. And continuing our conversation today with Marian, we're planning to do 2 other webinars. Particularly addressing the first one, addressing how-to part of what we talked about today. So today was more like a broad overview, but when it comes to getting into reporting, challenges, tips, putting it to practice, etc., would be the point of discussion for the second webinar. And the third webinar, I think Marian would focus on GRI standards and sort of delving deeper into that in terms of how it contributes to sustainability impact reporting. So these are 2 upcoming things. We haven't set the dates yet, and we will definitely keep you posted. All righty, we'd love to know how we did today. If you could give us some feedback on how the webinar was conducted, the content, what you'd like to see and listen to in the next upcoming webinars, that would be much appreciated. Give probably 30 seconds for you to do very few questions that to have your feedback captured.
Thanks, everyone. It was very nice to be here and give you, a blast over half an hour. Only half an hour.
Yeah, thank you so much for everyone who attended, and particularly thanks to Marian, who got prepared with it, and kind of, having you here today was indeed a pleasure, and thank you very much for your contribution.
Oh, thanks, Mayuri, for the opportunity.
And thank you to also Anjali and a few others who helped with organizing, and finally to all of you who attended and made it a success.